Hello. So today we're going to be talking about neurodivergence, the phenomena, and UAP disclosure, or why I can't tell if you're being sarcastic matters, is the subtitle of this experience. Now, it's a kind of a long presentation, and it's sort of self-reflective. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, you can skip around, use the timestamps, whatever. It documents an inquiry. These are my thoughts. I just want to get this out on a recording. So I have this kind of engagement. Now, if you're interested in neurodivergence, know about it, know about the phenomena, or are curious how it relates to my experience working with experiencers, then keep watching. I'm going to ask for some help around this because I'm experiencing social challenges relating to my own neurodivergent processing of information, specifically relating to my PhD experience and working with the challenging topics of false memory and hypnotic suggestibility and the interpretation of John E. Mack's role in UFO disclosure. So these are triggering topics. So if this is an issue for you, you might want to consider if now's the time to go on. This comes in a type of presentation I'm doing where I have literature up for you. I have links and I have sort of rough idea of where we want to go, but I just sort of riff with it and take you on this journey with me. There might not be really strong conclusions. So I wanted to just kick this off by sharing the screen, and I'm going to share all of these things. Wonderful. So this is kind of my introduction. I've been thinking about anomalies. UFO anomalies kind of drive us towards a different understanding of reality. And these social anomalies and how I'm communicating and how it's working is really driving me towards an understanding. I'll walk through a history about being into my history of starting my work in this field where I'm really inspired to work with ET experiencers, missing time, and I do so from a point of view of hypnosis. And I present the shamanic dreaming hypothesis of missing time in all of my work. And I do so because I intuited it. And I'm working on how best to communicate that. I'm doing that through books and work in all sorts of different ways. But I'll work through this journey that really started with my focus on John Mack, exploring whether or not I'm in a cult because I was in a PhD program at the time, getting kicked out of the experiencer group, having J. Christopher King report my interactions with him to Sean Esjborn-Hargens, a shift of relationship there with my program director, Dr. Sean. Then raising ethical considerations with my school and having a shift of relationships there, that's really not what I expected and not according to policy, the policies that I read and navigated our social interactions through. So I'm observing anomalies about myself that I'm going type 1 autism spectrum disorder really makes sense. And I'm sure that there's a sense of like obnoxiousness to self-diagnostic videos about this. I'm sure I'm not understanding it right, but I'm just offering this as an inquiry to make sense of this data. I mean, I went through diagnostic manuals as a kid to try to figure these things out. Asperger's made sense to me at the time. My mom said no because I was doing well with social stuff, it seemed, right? I'm now actually having the challenge, like I care so much about alien abduction, hypnosis, dreams, ethics stuff that I actually have to solve my communication issues. I can't, I don't, my strategies are not working with the PhD program or with the experiencer community that surrounds Johnny Mack, right? It's just not working. It does not work. I need help with that. And I think I'm triggering people or they don't know what to do with me. So I need help to become relevant in that way. So that's why I'm kind of sharing this. Some anomalies I have is a blindness towards social dynamic in UFO disclosure until I needed to complete literature reviews, and then my dreams guided me to complete that, and I'll um that's, I mean, like, that's that I didn't know about John Mack and Bud Hopkins until my interactions with a walk-in, an ET spirit in a human body or whatever, told me to look at this really, and I did, and I went, oh my God. And then with Bigelow, I didn't understand it. It was my dreams, my a precognitive lucid dream that guided me to Green Street, a green alien in the street, Green Street. Then I went, oh my God, Kirkpatrick is saying this cult thing around Bigelow. This is the thing that's important. Unusual personal experiences. That is so. Um, I didn't understand that. And I didn't understand that everyone in CIHS, everyone associated with my PhD program, everyone associated with UAP disclosure and the experiencer group is literally influenced by Mack. That's the one thing. And it's like, that's a hierarchy I didn't understand. Just did not get it. I read through the documents, and they didn't even put it together that Keene and Blumenthal are connected with Mack and Hopkins and how important that is. I didn't understand it until years into my practice. So I'm like completely blind to some of those things until my dreams pointed out. I do a creative dream incubation practice where I have dreams, I have some lucid dreams that respond to an intention to solve problems that I then express out of, like this presentation, like my books. And they guide me to understandings, and that's what helps me understand the social dynamics, not whatever cues you got, what the muggles are looking at or whatever, right? That's that, not whatever cues. You read a room and go like, okay, then you understand, right? But I didn't. And I was hyper focused on the problems of hypnosis and missing time, uh, on the problem of objective discernment. How can we know if this is true or not? I had inability to discern fact from fiction. I sort of, the sarcasm detection thing was not active. That was not a thing that helped me navigate these social cues. That did not help me navigate understanding of these social dynamics. Um, that inability or the lack of relevance in my experience really helps me be present with stories as they arrive. I have a rich inner world that corresponds to the statements people make. And so that's in part why I go, I'm having a rich inner world experience in response to the sarcasm, in response to the fact or fiction, right? And it feels equally real to me. Uh, so I look at these anomalies, I'm trying to make sense of it. That's what's turning me into look at the autism spectrum disorder type 1 definitions. The greatest anomaly for me was that I was a 4.0 GPA student, first in the department. I conducted literature reviews that essentially revealed risk to human subjects in the practices we were doing. I reported on it. I asked for clarity in the exact ways defined by the student handbooks, and yet I did not receive the response I intended or wanted. They at first said they were seriously taking my concerns seriously. I believe them at that. So there's a lack of irony detection there. I did not understand that. In fact, only up until 3 weeks ago, I was sort of, okay, here we are. We will probably work together. Once my concerns, once there's an adequate action or response where I'm actually seeing documentation, I just needed evidence of what they said that they would do in order to continue, because I know and so that's the greatest anomaly. And I go, how did I miss this? How did I miss stuff like this again? Well, I'm going to walk through this with you. So I've got a story, but I just want to then kind of guide you into what we're talking about. This is from the APA, Autism Spectrum Disorder, usually identified during preschool years, varied and marked persistent deficits in communication, social communication, and interaction. There's nonverbal stuff happening. It was associated with Asperger's. That's a different definition now. There's a lot of misunderstandings and myths about it. I turned to ChatGPT to help understand this. Kind of give me a summary. Give me a give me a summary of everything we know about type 1 autistics, how they might navigate social dynamics, such as support groups. Talk about cliques, sarcasm, and irony detection, justice, sensitivity, rich inner worlds. Those are the things I'm concerned about here. So they talk about it. I go, okay, that seems about right to me. A new thing for me in this understanding really was around justice sensitivity and the thing around hyper focus on problems until a solution is found. That's exactly what I did for 5 years. And I have a solution to the problems I'll talk about. That's why I want to work through the social challenges and any disorder or deficit that may be present in my experience. But I don't see these things as deficits. I don't see these things as disorders. That's why I haven't sought diagnosis. But I need help working through this. So that's why I'm presenting in this way. I wanted to bring in a different kind of viewpoint. This is from a treatment place about neurodivergence. This is a sort of fad understanding. This is why I have not been talking about these things, because I'm not expert in any of these things. I don't believe in a lot of the modalities, like the science understandings of these things, so it's not relevant. But you know, there's like, hey, if you have these issues, you might be neurodivergent, right? The same sort of stuff happened with alien abduction. So I want to just jump over to unusual personal experiences, right? They go like, if you have persistent nightmares or issues or anxieties or issues relating to people, you might be a sufferer of the UFO abduction syndrome. This is a disorder. This is a traumatic thing. This is a definition that you need treatment from. That kind of language feels gross and inappropriate to me. And I don't like it. And that's why I have issues with it. But there's a lot of issues with this document. It has a lot of, this is the source of the problem that I've been hyper focused on. And that this is a lot of the source of the programming we experience around UFO abduction, UFO disclosure, why it matters to me, to be honest. Why I thought I might be an abductee, and actually I'm probably just a neurodivergent shamanic dreamer. So I wanted to give a sense of journey here. So here we've got D-SETI. This is the Dream Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. This is my dream work business, right? This is how I work with people. It's under this idea of SETI. It's under the idea we use lucid and shamanic dreaming to make real contact in dreamlike ways that need interpretation. It offers the shamanic dreaming hypothesis of missing time, which I present in my books, and my services and things like that. So this is what I'm offering. All of my books and stuff like that. There's a lot of writing associated with this and research, papers, literature reviews. These are all results of my creative dream work practice. So I'm writing about alien abduction and hypnosis and stuff like that. This started as Cosmic Dream Hypnosis. That was the brand name I used. Then Cosmic Dream Sanctuary. Then it became D-SETI. But it was always Cosmic Dream Hypnosis, basically. It's sort of a dream hypnosis. That's really what I was working at. I got connected immediately after saying a prayer to be of service to a guy named Dan Berg, who connected me with the CE5 community. I wanted to show ET Let's Talk. I worked to help collect some of their data and present on their data. So I got connected with this community that led me to work with LightNet. Which was a community dedicated towards citizen science, is a community dedicated to citizen science around these things. I was the person that collected and maintained data about their reports and analyzed it about these experiences. So my work's still available on Tableau Public. I left here because of issues relating to scientific integrity, right? Like the last video I saw them endorse before I decided to leave was some guy was shining red lasers in eyes claiming it can heal blindness. And there was really no scientific basis for it. So there's a lack of discernment in this community that was an issue. So I moved to, I started a journey away from there. And this here I wanted to show you. This is my Reddit account called Cosmic Dream Sanctuary. That's how I worked with people. And I was looking for evidence of missing time. I'm not doubting. I'm just looking to see the state of the evidence. And this was really important for me because one of the moderators said, "Are you a member of the experiencer group? If not, I'll post this here." I'm not a member. It's like, I'm shocked you're not part of this experiencer network community, right? And the reason why it's obvious I wasn't part of it was I'm not tracking social cues and social cliques here. I'm literally just going by the omens and signs I see in response to the stuff I do with CE5 and dream work. That's what I'm doing. Uh, so so right. And then I learned about Stuart Davis, right, in that experience. I then go, oh, that's fascinating, right? Look, here's Gravither. I need a, this is another social thing. I need to get into these, like, these people are relevant to, and I'm sort of, I look at the content, but the social resolution into a name, I'm tracking this. Gravither, I recognize in a something recently. So that takes me to the experiencer group, right? And I joined that. And it was great, wonderful. I had communications. Introduces me to these people, right? And I go, oh, wonderful. There's all different people. And from searching about this, I came to realize, right, that these people, the experiencer group, are the people mentioned in this debrief, right? Like, that understanding is synchronicity. Wow, it's amazing. Like, now I'm connecting the dots, actually. So this article you can read is from Ralph Blumenthal, who is the author of the New York Times article. And that, for me, I go, it took me forever to realize, to actually track the fact that Elizondo and Bigelow were in there. It took me forever to realize Keene and Blumenthal are persistent figures, right, in this, in definers of this. So when I did that, I go, like, what did Blumenthal write? I come to this one, I go, oh, okay, this is somewhat real. So he's talking about alien abductions, and he suggests that abductions actually are the hidden context of UAP disclosure. That makes sense, right? He talks about John Mack. He talks about J. Christopher King, Stuart Davis, the podcast Aliens and Artists. Talks about all of these things. And so I go, okay, this is actually, these are the testimonies that are offered to the public record about abduction contemporarily to support the UAP disclosure movement, the UAP disclosure acts, right? The political acts that are based on these things are now based on the testimony of Stuart Davis, J. Christopher King, Robin Lasseter, who's been mentioned in here, and Karen Austin, right? So she had a session with John Mack. She's the executive director of the Mack Institute. But here you think it's sort of disconnected, maybe John Mack's finding them and stuff like that. But or it's all about dream stuff, and it's like, but you think, you know, unless you there's like, what is actually going on, right? Here's Nadine Lalich, actually. And so this is the first episode of Aliens and Artists. So when you click into Stuart Davis, you get to the liminal muse, which is where he offered his practice. So this looks like he is the hypnotist practicing in the legacy of John Mack. That's what it looks like to me. That's why, in part, I paid attention to his experience. Now, I wanted to show Aliens and Artists. This is his podcast that I really connected with. I thought it was amazing. And so here we've got his. I'll just play a little bit for you. If we've got Man Meets Mantis.
At midnight on New Year's Eve 2010, I had the strangest experience of my life. I was visited by an 8-foot-tall praying mantis entity. The encounter changed me as an artist and a spiritual seeker. And years later, I'm still trying to understand that event and all that followed.
So he unpacks that story. He really unpacks that story. Through all of this, he ends with Claire Castleberry. It's important to hear his goodbye from Aliens and Artists. It's really important to hear that and his Bodhisattva vow, because it really shows a kind of a disillusionment in this world that I would see to be resolved in some way. And I think I have an understanding as to what happened, right? Is people came to this article, the debrief article, they did exactly what I said. And these people are from the intelligence communities and the PsyOps and the industries and the VCs, and they go, okay, well, who's actually an abductee now? Who can I actually talk about? And they look to Blumenthal and they go, okay, Blumenthal looked to Mack. Who's doing it now? Well, the experiencer group. And they turned to Stuart Davis and they turned to J. Christopher King, who are media professionals who have developed a support group to help understand this. And there's, so Stuart Davis later talks about being invited to these things to go on. The same thing that happens with the UFO podcast, Rabbit Hole podcast. Um, so I just wanted to show you the second interview was from Dr. Sean Esjborn-Hargens.
And generally speaking, those other
Dr.
places
Sean.
are in other realms or dimensions, maybe even other timelines. And
So Dr. Sean here is, I think it's really important because I want to amplify this, because this is actually an understanding of social cues. I'm understanding this is guiding into. I'm following the links of literature now that I'm being guided to. And the literature for me with Dr. Sean was around the program definition at CIHS, but I'll just get there kind of slowly because this is chronological. So Dr. Sean Esjborn-Hargens has something called the Exo Studies. He wrote a really brilliant paper. It's really brilliant about it's called Our Wild Cosmos. It's hard to get to. You just Google it. It's really brilliant. It's really the theoretic foundation for everything at CIHS, and I do honestly think it's brilliant and really should be brought forward as a theoretic foundation for how academics approach this, right? Like non-human intelligence, with a few caveats around ethical considerations and integration of literature reviews around Mackian research, right? So Dr. Sean was there. I wanted to then point to another kind of social grouping. This is the Inquire Anomalous series, Heart of Intimate Conferences in the heart of New York City. This is presented by Jay King of the Experiencer Group. It ties in with Jay Yendali. CE5, and it has Blumenthal, it has King, it has Strieber, it has all of the names. It has Gaudetz, it has Kreipel, it has Nolan, it has Dr. Sean Esjborn-Hargens as the first person there. And so there's another connection here, another like social grouping that I go, okay, it's actually I understood there was a dynamic of the mainstream moving forward, but it's actually literally just the same people in different organizations or the same network of people who are influenced by John Mack in the same way. That's what my discovery is, through talking to, tracking all of this. So I wanted to put that forward because I look to this series in part because Sean presented there, but it's sort of revealing a social dynamic. This is really showing this Inquire Anomalous is like a conference, a UFO conference, like the Soul Conference, and these are like Contact in the Desert. These apparently are huge events where people come together. I appreciate some conferences. I went to the Enochian Magic Conference and the Dream Studies Conference, and those are the two conferences I've been to in my life that I find are really meaningful to me. And I now understand that a lot of UFOlogy proceeds through giving lectures at conferences, and there's a whole circuit in whatever. That didn't really seem relevant to the claims being made on the appearance to me, but now working with the communities, I understand that's actually the case. And so I'm presenting this as relevant to you. CIHS is actually where I paid attention to Dr. Sean. He's the Dean of Integral Studies there, and he has the PhD in Integral Noetic Science with concentration of Anomalous Studies. So I really leaned into this. I wrote my entrance essay on ET-NHI contact and dreams. I paid attention to this literature because in the actual definition of the program, there was a kind of credulous understanding of ET-NHI contact. And so I go, I can actually lean into this literally as the foundations, this within an WASC accredited institute. This is enough to get a peer-reviewed article moving forward, or actually a dissertation through the community. And that's actually defines the knowledge that I need to. And so that's why I was working with them. So then while I was in the program, he came out with this European Consciousness Studies program, and I really wanted to lean into that as well. That's where I wanted to go. But I had these ethical issues that showed up primarily because of the explicit use of UAP or NHI as a subject matter without specific statements in informed consent documents or things like that, or policy books, or an IRB conversation about it. So I entered this program with Dr. Sean. That's what I ended up doing. Again, I didn't really fully understand what was going on in terms of social dynamics, and that's fine. I was reading, I was doing literature reviews, I was doing what I needed to do. That was really helpful structure for me. I really loved it. I wanted to continue. I'd still love to continue. I don't have the financial backing to do it, and I am now realizing the social challenges that I'm pointing to are likely insurmountable unless there is work done on my part to navigate some of these idiosyncrasies I have, and work done on their part to meet me there, let's say. So I wanted to point to the John Mack Institute because one of the things I learned from going through the courses at CIHS is that everyone is influenced by John Mack. That's literally the theoretic foundation that they're leaning on. And they're very tricky. It's very, very tricky because they're shifting languages, UFO, UAP, abductee, experiencer, hypnosis, holotropic breathwork, powerful reliving, etc. It took me years to get to this article too, Presupposed Strangeness, because I never actually tracked it back socially through Keene or Hopkins. I never actually went, oh, I need to figure out who they are as people until my dreams or the science told me to. And that's what I ended up doing. I just would read their stuff, or I don't know how I didn't get to this when I was there, but this is really important because it shows the Presupposed Strangeness article by Carol Rainey that really, if you've seen the Manhattan alien abduction, that really shows you what's going on. It casts doubt on these interpretations as absolutely real, but that's okay. There's a solution to the problem here. There's a solution to the Presupposed Strangeness. That's what I want to communicate. I'd love to communicate it directly with the Johnny Mack Institute, or directly with the people working there, but I don't know. There's like a crazy force field between me and them. It feels like where I can't actually broach these matters in sane, reasonable ways that seem rationally responded to, or stuff like that. But the problem here is ethical violations of research integrity. The solution is ethical oversight. The problem here is they are saying hypnosis and these dreams are real and therefore not dreams or trance type or imaginal. The solution is to understand them as both real and dreamlike. And Dr. Sean has the theoretic foundations to do it. And integral studies literally is the framework I would recommend to broach this solution in a conversation with. About that time when I was integrating the presupposed strangeness, this problem, this really deep understanding, I go, whoa, something's really off with something's really off with this experience, right? I wrote this book, Galithog the Gray's Field Guide to Anomalous Geometry. In part, this compelled me to write because of statements made by Dr. Shun about the experiencer group, or Bledsoe, and no, not that. That was about the ethical inquiry, but this caused me. I needed understanding here about claims made about UFOs and evidences and things like that for alien abduction. And so I turned to my dreams to understand the physical evidence for alien abduction and all of that complex in the 1990s around false memory and alien abduction research. And this book is the solution. Galithog the Gray's Field Guide to Anomalous Geometry. It is literally the solution that I sought for, and I had to keep coming back to it. The irony here is very sarcastic. It's very ironic. It's quite a feat actually that I channeled it. But I did so, and now I'll probably be condemned to help people interpret this for the rest of my life, and that's beautiful. So I do this like a research paper. That caused me to start questioning, am I in a cult? Am I in a cult? And I got, that caused me to get kicked out of the experiencer group. Why did that cause me to get kicked out of the experiencer group? Well, I started doing this. I go, this is what I started. I went, there seems to be a cult. I'll just play it so you hear what kind of stuff I'm into. All right. So
seems to be a UFO cult around Congress. Was John Mack one of its charismatic thought leaders? This is an inquiry into delusions and truths related to UAP disclosure and alien abduction narratives through questions posed to the John E. Mack Institute. My hypothesis is that cults and cult-like groups control belief patterns. If I make a dissenting inquiry about John Mack, will I be censored or controlled by the community? So this is a presentation.
So that was the question, right? So that was the question I had. That caused me to produce this video.
In a world where reality and imagination blur, there's a phenomenon that's capturing attention and causing distress. It all began with a booklet that misidentified extraordinary dreams as evidence of alien encounters. Published in 1992, this booklet unwittingly sparked a wave of confusion and anxiety among those who read it. Individuals who are schizotypal, fantasy-prone, or susceptible to hypnosis are particularly vulnerable to alien abduction believer syndrome, AABS. Alien abduction BS believer syndrome is defined by harm perpetuated by the 1992 Unusual Personal Experiences booklet, exposure to alien abduction narratives, encounter with the media of John Mack, Bud Hopkins, or David Jacobs, fear, anxiety, or PTSD related to alien abduction narratives, or susceptibility to contemporary UAP crash retrieval narratives that are derived from the funding or work of Robert Bigelow. The consequences of alien abduction believer syndrome can be devastating, often leading to symptoms similar to PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. But there's a subtle form of AABS that's emerging in contemporary times. Some individuals find themselves drawn to narratives of contemporary UAP crash retrievals, falling into a similar pattern of belief and distress. Yet, amidst the false memories and confusion, there's a crucial point to remember. The underlying cause of extraordinary dreams may indicate encounters beyond our understanding. As we grapple with the complexities of the mind and the mysteries of the universe, let's approach each other with compassion and understanding. Together, we can navigate the shadows of belief and find truth in our shared humanity. Let's work together to unravel the mysteries of the mind and embrace a more nuanced understanding of our experiences. With knowledge and compassion, we can navigate the complexities of belief and find clarity in the search for truth. Learn more today and schedule a free consultation at D-SETI.org. This is a presentation.
All right, so I have a whole article that I wrote based on the UFO, unusual personal experiences document. It's called Alien Abduction BS. I thought that was funny, right? Like that is funny. It's alien abduction BS believer syndrome. Um, but I also so that was like the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was preceded by two other videos. One is the lurid secret history of alien abduction. This was the most triggering thing to me. So I explore the notion that's I lean into this sort of creepy image with Bud Hopkins, John Mack sort of over this sort of in is sort of I say because when I actually tracked down where the literature was about body marks, apparently Bud Hopkins carried around a folder of body mark photos, including perforated labias, and he showed it off in these little like post lecture kind of old boys club kind of experiences, which sort of seemed to me to convince Jacobs, Mack, and Bigelow. That's what I thought happened. Like that made sense. There's a good reason for it. So I track the literature around it and present a hypothesis here. That was offensive to people. And then I said something that caused the archivists, Johnny Mack, archivist Will Boucher, to cause me a chatbot with recycled arguments or something like that. I sent him the prologue to my book or something like that. Mishlove gave me a similar reading about my missing time found exposition. He goes, your exposition could use some work. So I'm a chatbot. So that made me really triggered actually. So then I gave my stereotypical response, which is asking a lot of questions in a hyperverbal way. And so I have actually, there seems to be a UFO cult around John Mack, charismatic leader. And then there's a video that I have called Questions for the Johnny Mack Institute. Is alien abduction, should Jemmy take an official position? So I have some questions. I just sort of go through this. I mean, it's 50 pages of stuff like this, right? Like I go through literature, bullet points, right, arguments, right? I'm trying to get there. So I asked if they'd offer some questions and things like that, and they actually did respond with some responses to my questions, which was wonderful. I haven't seen like what due diligence did Mack perform on his hypothesis? Clancy identified abductees as schizotypal. What has Jemmy said about it? Right? Like I mean, I feel like the institute should take some thought leadership stance. Or I feel the same way about CIHS. The final video I'll point to is this one, Ontological Shock as a Cultish Redefinition of Cognitive Dissonance. This is in part how I'm tracking the cult around John Mack. Is the language used is here is a 2 hour 21-minute video about the language of ontological shock with a lot of references, right? You can see, right, I've got definitions, I've got literature reviews, I've got a lot of literature in this one, I've got hypothesis, I've got conclusions, I've got questions. Right, this is my response to these questions, like a lot of literature. And this is in part, I go like, I'm actually triggered by these questions. I'm trying to solve a problem here. I'm not finding communications, but I'm trying to document the best I can. So that led me to this experience where, let me see, account from tag hey, we've received complaints about your video, and I'm sharing this publicly because this was forwarded to Dr. Sean and is now part of my academic record. So Jay did that. So so it's not me. And so he's saying, hey, it seems like I'm calibrated to antagonize experiencers. No, it lacks compassion and tact, maybe. And so I give this response, right? It's like a 3-page response, right? And I go through my arguments. I'm asking questions. I actually need a response to these things from these people. They're the only people that can answer these questions for me. And it's sort of, I have big questions, right? Like, are they inducing harmful false memories? Are they using known techniques to induce false memories for profit, right? That's what it looks like to me. I mean, J. Christopher King and Stuart Davis are media professionals. They're running a support group. They're doing so, I'm not sure on what credentials, except for pure support ideas derived from John Mack, right? And they're supported by Dr. Sean Esjborn-Hargens and this sort of clique experience. He looks to John Mack. They're all looking to John Mack's Institute. Like the professor of phenomenology that Sean brought in was the research director from the Johnny Mack Experience Institute. So I ask all these questions. I don't get a response. What ends up happening is Sean goes, hey, I got this disturbing email from Jay King, who runs the Experiencer group. He's upset with you. What happened? And so then I explained through a kind of hyper literal response, this is what happened. And again, I have a kind of sense it resolves in the literature of the emails, but it doesn't actually resolve socially. And those are cues that are hard for me to navigate. Um, So I'm showing you some examples of how I'm navigating the UAP disclosure world and the social world around that. This is an interpretation of a UAP sighting by Chris Bledsoe. I was guided to do this analysis by my dreams. Dr. Sean was with Bledsoe at the time of seeing this UAP. Also with Darren King, who is the communications director for the John E. Mack Institute and the only other public academic who's like teaching to be associated with Bledsoe in this sort of like researchy thing or whatever. So those are things I'm tracking, but it's all going back to John Mack stuff. But this video is how I processed understanding claims related to the Monroe Institute event with Chris Bledsoe. There's a lot to get into. I'm exhausted by talking about this in a sense, but it drives me nuts because it's really clear that there are lies going on for profit and confusions and things like that that are obscuring an actual phenomenon that's meaningful. And I got to that understanding by following my dreams, by thinking that the UAP sightings that these people said were actually UAPs were signs of alien communication. And I analyzed them as such, which then gave me enough understanding to then find precedents in literature and go, this is a satellite, and I know it. And why don't, here, Sean, why is Chris Bledsoe an advisor, right? Why is he, let's go to it, CIH. The Wiser study, the super experiencer study. Why is Chris Bledsoe and still a primary case study of this? Why is he an advisor here? Why is that the case? Oh, and then by the way, Leslie Keene, right? Like, what's she doing? Like Kelly Chase, right? We got a lot of people here that are very deeply connected with the UFO stuff by way of Mack, right? Like that's sort of the understanding and lens that we're working with, right? Even if it's not completely listed in the case of here. So these are my questions, right? I go, where is Susan Clancy? Where's a McNally, right? I don't see one. So we're going to just keep going to understand kind of the next step in this journey for me. I then this is a little out of order. in this journey, I kind of parse all this stuff out in this article. Bledsoe's UFO of God is likely satellite Intelsat 29E. You can see how I'm working with it. I'm getting claims. I'm finding backup. I'm like looking at this and making conclusions based on what people are saying. And I go, there's a psyop happening. If Darren King and Dr. Sean Esjborn-Hargens are part of the experience where Bledsoe has lied about my first missing time client, lied about this situation, there's no correction of public record, and really Bledsoe is still an advisor, and Bledsoe is getting Esjborn-Hargens placements on podcasts that are making his program successful. I go, there's something socially here that we need to talk about in an ethical way. So I ended up writing this because of a dream, and I share that dream a lot because it was impactful for me. It's called The Ethical Implications of Unquestioned Mackian Research at CIHS. I just wanted to show you, you can read this off the screen, what I have to say, where I'm concerned. It's like a 200-page document, right? And basically I give a history of it. I define what I'm talking about, all in terms of this focus on John Mack, because I think it's so important. I have premises about confusions that are present here, harmful false memories. I talk about my ethical concerns that I need addressed. I have specific questions of Mackian research, and then I have appendixes of communications, correspondences, and other supporting evidences, including analyses I've done of dreams and other things like that. So that's really what I sent to Dr. Sean. He goes, whoa, that's a lot. He read it. He said he's concerned. He was concerned, shared my concerns. He said, why don't you write a shorter document? I go, risk of harmful false memories in UAP studies, documentation of ethical concerns, sent to Dr. Martin as Dean of Research. I thought that initiated a process of informally understanding these things. So I explained my situation. I'm concerned in less than like a final paper, basically. I consider this to be like a final paper. And I asked for very, very specific things: update to research policy handbook, a CIHS endorsed article to clarify some statements made on CIHS endorsed media about the experiencer group and support groups and hypnosis that could be potentially harmful or lead to liability, right? And then I asked for a peer support group for experiencer or students and researchers, right? That's what I did in that document. And then I don't know, like 6 months later, I didn't see any action or any response. I heard a lot and like, yeah, we're concerned. They told me things. I didn't actually see documentation of that. So then I'm like, hey, I need to initiate a grievance process to get official documentation about these things. So I did that again. This is based on what the Dean of Student Success and Dean of Integral Studies told me. That's Dr. Sean and that's Naira Yegian told me to do. So I made this grievance definition. I said, hey, let's initiate the grievance process. I need an official response. So then a long time later, they give me this response, almost like within the deadline of like what their policies say, basically. And they say, actually, you don't have a grievance. And so I'm like, what? But you said I did. And then they say, you've got these questions. They're not going to address them. They say that they are ethical experts, that they do uphold ethics in these ways, and that they're committed to ongoing review and advancement. And so I go, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So then at some point they say, let's collaborate further. So I make this document. I say, okay, let's collaborate on this project is what I would do. I'd collect literature together. It took me a while to get a meaningful response on that, but then I go, actually, something's really off. I don't think I'm going to get a response by the time my year of leave of absence expires. That's when I would withdraw automatically. So then I'm like basically going, hey, can you give me a how has CIHS integrated my concerns? What have you done? And basically the answer is we've talked to you. It didn't fall under any grievance process. We met with you on multiple occasions, and we took your concerns seriously and made every effort to respond thoughtfully, but in good faith. But I didn't actually see that. I had several Zoom conversations that were kind of weird, and nobody actually talked about false memory with me. So nobody actually, except for Mishlev, who gave me an old reference. So no one explained to me the processes that they went through to consider these things, which I was asking for. They just talked to me kind of about these issues. And so that's where I'm at. And so I go like, okay, I'm having these challenges. This is the nature of the social challenge I have. This is what I'm doing with. So that's what I'm dealing with. What's going on is last week I watched this video, Plasma Consciousness and the Future of Anomalous Studies by J. Christopher King and Kelly Chase, where I go, they're defining the future of anomalous studies through their influence on Sean, this cliquey influence on Sean that he values over my research, he values over my statements. It's clear by what's going on that this sort of literature-based, review-based, dream-based inquiry has no place in anomalous studies as it's unfolded in the last 3 or 4 years, even though I was the first PhD student to really lean into it, even though I have all of these experiences and interests, it's I'm not relevant there. But Cosmoesis is, J. Christopher King is, Kelly Chase is, these media producers turned abductee supporters, right? Dream interpreters, right? But I go, where is the evidence for ethical consideration? Where is the grounding in literature? Everything's based on a bizarre interpretation of ontological shock from John Mack, right? And there's issues with that, literally and truly. And so I get worked up about it. I got worked up about it. And the reason being here, in part, and this will really show you in part why this is a neurodivergent dream omen thing I'm doing, is because they had this triangle here. They had this triangle here. I saw this triangle. I go, this is something I need to look into. And so I made this video. What's up with this triangle? And it's part of my alien triangle series where I apply ruler and compass geometry to this. Orb experience, the light experience, and then seeing different. So I'm showing all the different analysis I do on these things to create project. I go, wow, there's coincidences here no one else is picking up on. There's a pattern here no one else is picking up on, right? This is Amy Rylance. I don't know why they're using that triangle. And so I present this information in this video. You can get to it. This exact triangle is everywhere in abduction and UFO evidence. What is it and why? So that really triggered me on this because I saw this triangle. I had to watch this video. I had to think about the future of anomalous studies. I had to grieve for the fact that I am socially inept enough that I am unable to communicate with Kelly Chase. Oh yeah. This is the thing I wanted to, this is what got me. Let me show you. This is the deduction, right? I go, all right, so I have a practice of sometimes responding to the things I watch because that's a way of connecting. And so I observe sometimes the responses, right? And so I go, okay, so 5 days ago, Kelly Chase or whoever runs this thing got a bunch of videos. Thank you. Crop Circle Research says this. I love it. 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 Nothing. Love it. Love it. Love it. And so I was in the period of time where they clearly saw this, and I'm like, something about this response is not appropriate. Something about this response. I get this response a lot from people. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Nope, not even talking to you, not even acknowledging it, but not saying anything back to you. And I understand that is derived from a challenge that could be related to my perception or processing of some social cues. And that's why I'm making this video. This is a hypothesis. I want to solve this problem so that I can communicate effectively the solution to the alien abduction ethics crisis thing that has been plaguing us from the 90s, makes our community kind of a laughing stock of mainstream mainstream science and is the reason why we cannot move forward with bringing the experiencer testimony to the congressional record. We can't bring it forward to science because of this fundamental confusion and problem presented in the Priest of High Strangeness stuff, the issues around John Mack. And I really just want to have a clear and authentic communication with these people, but I don't know how, and every overture I've made is sort of overwhelming and overlaid with a triggered kind of intensity that I need to back off from. But when I back off from it and I pretend I'm communicating in what it seems like a normal human way, it's ignored. And so at least I get a response from these videos that I make. At least I get a response from people who have experiences that connect with me, who communicate in this way. I go, this is actually beautiful. This is why I do it, is the connections I make. And the inquiry I'm sharing is relevant to people. They tell me that. And there's something that is relevant in my work that is inspiring me to look into the challenges, the disorders of neurodivergence, actually, because I'm disordered because of my inability to communicate in effective ways to this community, to Jake Christopher King, to Kelly Chase, to Dr. Sean Esjborn-Hargens, to Dr. Jeffrey Martin, to Dr. Stacy Gomes, to Naira Yigian, to the the researchers in this field. I have an inability to effectively communicate the solution that I found to the problems that we're experiencing as a community together. And I need help. To Danny Sheehan, to the New Paradigm Institute. I've sent these communications to so many people, and some people respond, some people don't. And it's just where we're at. It's just where I'm at. And so that's why I'm offering this really long video. That's why I'm thinking about this. I don't know really how to resolve this. I am producing content about this. My guidance is pointing me towards this kind of confessional video type situation to go, help me, or I'll actually find, I will actually seek out an understanding, right? An understanding that will help me broach these topics with people, help me modulate my form of communication. And I flop into this hyper linguistic thing about this topic because I've been triggered by it. I've been triggered by it. It made me anxious and fearful and sort of traumatized about my own dream experience, which happens every night because of the programming put forward by these people, and that is unconsciously going forward through research like the Wiser project. It's unconsciously moving forward, like through support groups like the experiencer group, through statements from Ralph Blumenthal. Like there's confusion there that could be resolved, a problem that could be resolved through literally just education and pointing to existing literature. But no one actually looks at those details because the communication style I use to communicate that is overwhelming. And I go, well, maybe I'll try something else to get you to look at one of my 4 books or like a bazillion hours of videos or whatever. And I go, actually, if someone's watching this and has an effective means of communication that could help me translate that would be helpful for me. I'm working with my wife actually on translating my engagement pattern to something more sustainable in terms of business, and that's helpful. She revamps the design of my work in a way that's communicative in a language that I feel is effective, but I'm not necessarily particularly gifted at or care to become gifted at. So she's really helping me with that. And if someone's out there that could help me with these communications and these communication challenges, I say thank you. I go, I actually just literally need to have these communications with the John Mack Institute people, with Sean Esjborn-Hargens, to go, hey, the CIHS, the ethics stuff, they actually go, I don't think you're seriously considering what I have to say because I have not seen evidence for it. I think you're just saying you're seriously considering it because it's a traumatic or triggered way thing. It's controversial. It's hard to deal with. Your identities are tied up into it. Mine is too. I'm triggered in how I'm speaking about it. So you want to have this just resolve and buttoned up and go away. But actually, I'm sort of just obsessed with this problem and solution that I want to communicate with you in an effective way. And that is what's causing me to go, okay, what is going on? What is going on? And I think I could serve people better if I understood this. And that's in part why I'm making this video, because I document my inquiries. That's how I do it. I looked at literature. I'm thinking about it. I'm processing it. I'll watch this video again to process it, to understand what what I feel or think about it. So there are sort of these techniques I've been using to navigate society in a way that has been effective for me up until this point, in which time I'm going, these are no longer effective strategies. These are certainly not effective strategies. I need something else. And so I'm going, what are those strategies? For me, it's been helpful to actually work with people who have shared with me their own journeys of neurodivergent identities and acceptance and things like that. That's been helpful. Like, okay, I don't actually need to go through a process of diagnosis and seeking that sort of professional help. I just need a sense of stabilizing it and going, oh, how has this been done? Okay, this is how I can do it. I will probably seek out some level of support around this, to be honest, because that would be very helpful. It would be very helpful. I'd rather have that than go, here's yet another book length document I wrote for you that will just trigger you instead of considering my ethical concerns or the solution I have to the problems that we all share as a community. That's all I wanted to say. That's where I'm at. I would love and invite any sort of response people might have about this. I mean, it's been a journey for me, to be honest. I mean, from the moment I found those characteristics around Asperger's syndrome, I go, oh, there's something here that I know that I am experiencing. But my mom said different. And it's not a journey I really wanted to go on. I don't like thinking about the disorder quality, the deficit quality of these things. I go, actually, it's not relevant, right? But I'm living in an alternative way, in a way that is coping with the challenges of society, and is not particularly thriving in society in that way. And so I am seeking ways to communicate that effectively work with society, where I can bring forward the solution. There's an actual solution. I found the solution to this problem. It took me a while. It took me a while, so that we don't have to be triggered about whether or not the abduction experiences we share, or the abduction experiences that were shared from Hopkins, Mack, and Jacob, in these sort of ethically challenged ways, and these that we can recognize their reality and actually work with them in a way that's consistent with mainstream culture's understanding of these things, in the way that's consistent with shamanic cultures in around us, before us, within us. I hope that contextualizes some things for you. I mean, it's probably not going to be a surprise to anyone. I'm thinking about these things. In fact, I suspect the only people that really listen to me are neurodivergent in some way, shape, or form. If only because of their sensitivities to dreams. That is generally not uncommon, but not common, right? So we're talking somewhere between 1 and 25% of the population with some of the dream phenomena I talk about. And I'm thinking it's something a lot less than that, maybe 1 in 50, 1 in 100 people, maybe the 2%, you know, that I'm talking about, that are really might listen to the words I have to say and the way I have to say it. So that's why I'm hoping to find bridges of communication to the communities that I've triggered and how I've communicated with them, so that the solutions that we've actually found together through me dreaming about you and you having interactions about the content I produce with me, so that those solutions actually can come forward and be of benefit to our shared community, our shared world. So that's the invitation here. And that's why the fact I cannot necessarily tell if you're sarcastic, well, actually I can, but I used to have a really hard time with it. Why I can't tell if you're sarcastic matters to ET disclosure or UFO disclosure. So with that, thanks for being with me, and yeah, do reach out. I'll see you in the next video.